Welcome to another Hearts of Iron 4 video. Today, as you can tell by the title, the thumbnail that looks a little bit clickbaity, I am going to be covering 10 things that I would like to see in Hearts of Iron 4 either removed, added, or maybe changed a little bit and tweaked with. Now, hopefully if this video does get popular enough, maybe if we're lucky, maybe someone from Paradox might see it and push it up the food chain a little bit in the corporate world, and we might get some of these features depending on how the community responds to it. So if you guys like the ideas that I put forward today, make sure you guys end up liking the video if you enjoyed this video and all that, and subscribe and yada yada. Yeah, I'm wasting too much time. Let's just jump on into this. Starting off our list is going to be the thing that irritates me the most, and that is the manpower brokenness of Hearts of Iron 4. Now, everything else does make sense. For the Navy, I was able to look it up online. These are pretty accurate for all the ship requirements for manpower. For divisions, this is pretty close to being accurate of the size of battalions to divisions and stuff like that. That's pretty accurate. Now, the thing that irritates me, though, is the air size of the manpower requirements. Now, for an example, a B-17 on this game requires 80 personnel. A heavy fighter, which only had a seat for one single guy, requires 40 manpower. Now, let me say this. A couple resolutions, I guess, when I've said this in the past that people have come up with are maybe because they want to keep it realistic, this is supposed to more simplify things instead of having the ability to produce 50 planes a day to keep it close to being accurate as the United States. Instead of doing something like that and have a stockpile of 20,000 aircraft, they're trying to simplify things to the manner of thinking one bomber you make in-game is supposed to represent 10 bombers in-game in a more simplistic idea. For example, the United States had way more than 130 civilian factories scattered across the United States during 1936. But if that example is right, why is it that the manpower for the United States and all the other countries is a lot lower than what they actually had available to them for them to conscript and so forth? For example, the United States, whenever you get to limited conscription, there's a lot more people that could have been conscripted into the U.S. Armed Services than just 1,200,000. So I don't get why planes have such a high requirement for manpower. And also, another idea that somebody recommended a while ago is maybe this is supposed to be base personnel. If it's supposed to represent base personnel, why is it that you lose the 80 men when the plane goes down? Anyway, let's go ahead and skip on to part 2. The second thing I would like to see is a system sort of like the Man the Guns naval building system, except it's for convoys. Now, what I mean by this is you can create a variant. Well, not even really create a variant. I was hoping it'd open up the menu. But basically create a variant like this. And hopefully they will change it to the one day where you can actually upgrade it with AA so you can stop being convoy rated by tactical bombers and all that so easily. And hopefully you can upgrade them with radar, sonar, stuff like that to maybe encounter submarines less. You know, there's a lot of ideas that you could use, and maybe even upgrade engines to increase the efficiency of the ships, I guess, and get them to deliver stuff quicker instead of 30 days. You know, I don't know, but I would just really hope that one day we could actually change up the convoys and stuff. Now, the number 3 thing I would like to see added to Hearts of Iron 4 is a POW system. Now, it's not going to be something like you think, and I know a lot of people out there because I made this recommendation in the past, and a lot of people said they're not going to add that. It's way too controversial, like certain things surrounding this country here that people were wanting added, which, I mean, let's be honest, that probably should not be in Hearts of Iron 4, because that would really mess up the whole fun, joking around kind of vibe of Hearts of Iron 4 most of the time. Basically, I don't think it's really going to be that controversial if they would add something like a POW system, and it's not going to work the way of, oh, you can do this evil thing with them and stuff. No, I'm saying that whenever divisions get encircled, you could actually do decisions based on how many troops you just encircled, like things like you would get a construction speed bonus for a certain amount of time. You could maybe get intelligence bonuses where you'll have a decryption advantage, or a bonus of like 3 to 6% of division attack for all your divisions for like a month or something. You know, it would be kind of a really good idea, I think, to simplify it in that manner. And let's be honest, before people say it's completely a controversial issue and that's why it's not going to be added, there's already a lot of controversial things when we look at Paradox games, like Imperator Rome has certain things like you can jail babies, you can, in other games, declare holy wars, and let's be honest, CK2 and EU4. So I don't think it would be any more controversial adding a POW system to Hearts of Iron 4 than it would be the simple idea of you just slaughtered 400,000 encircled divisions and you refuse to take prisoners, I would imagine, right? Number 4, I want air bases and aircraft carriers to no longer be overloaded like air volunteers. Now, you're probably thinking, why would that be an issue? In quite a few games in multiplayer, you can do things like, where is it here? There's one thing you can remove, and I'm pretty sure it's in this one right here. Yeah, carrier overcrowding penalties is negative 20%. Okay? Now, I want you to think about something here. I've seen this happen in multiplayer, and before you try this, just know most multiplayer servers catch you doing this, they will ban you so fast, so do not do this. And please, if the server does allow it, don't do it to me. This is what I want. I want them to no longer allow you to overload carriers like you do with volunteer planes to Spain, okay? Because most players will do this. They'll say 60 planes can fit on the carrier, and they'll add 60 planes. But what about people who are in multiplayer, who get the carrier overcrowding penalty bonus, and do this? And I'm not kidding. People have done this in multiplayer, and they will have enough planes to actually do this in battle. And because they removed the carrier over penalty, it's like 80% of the planes can still actually enter the battle. So you might, if you have, say, the ability to support 100 planes on these carriers, and you send 1,000 planes to them, you only lose 80%. You can end up using 200 planes per carrier still. And then, if any of the planes get lost in combat, it balances it out so you continuously keep sending the planes. And again, please do not do this in multiplayer games. If you want to go in single player, meme the Japanese Navy as the US by having 4,000 fighters on a Yorktown aircraft carrier, by all means. But when you can do things like this to the point when now I would have 3,000 planes on an aircraft carrier that should only be able to support 60, I just want them to please, for God's sakes, get something like this in check and just do the exact same thing it does when you try to send air volunteers to Spain, where you just can't simply send too many based on the actual sizes. Number 5, I would like a new support company to be added to the game, and it would be flamethrowers. And basically they would help do damage to forts and jungles and forests and stuff like that. I think that would actually be really cool to kind of give a bonus like that, sort of like how Marines are made for naval invading, how, you know, Mountaineers are used for fighting in hills and stuff. I think flamethrowers would be really cool to use in a lot of wooded areas or jungle areas, like in the Pacific, for example, to give bonuses to Marines that are actually naval invading islands and stuff, and do damage to forts in Hearts of Iron. For number 6, I would like the option to edit tanks and planes in Hearts of Iron 4 like you can for ships. So I know that would be broken at first, but I really like the idea of the actual naval designer, or the ship designer in Hearts of Iron 4. I would like to see them do the exact same thing for air design, for example, instead of this system where you could change the type of, you know, the plane type structure or something like that, or maybe change the engine out in it like this. You could change out the certain caliber of weapons. You can add a couple different calibers. You can add cannons and stuff, or you can have just machine guns. You can add a tail gunner. I mean, the options could be possibly limitless for the things you could add, but I would really like to see them do that for planes and tanks. So you could do things like add a more powerful turret to a tank, maybe add more powerful machine guns to do more soft attack damage, or maybe you could upgrade the cannon up top to do more hard attack damage. You could upgrade the tracks to increase the speed along with the engine. I mean, it would be really cool, the ideas and options we would have for something like this, and hopefully they will add something like this in. Now, the next two things for 7 and 8 are going to tie in together. Basically, for number 7, I would like to add the option, or like Paradox to add the option to do leaflet campaigns, kind of like the air supply mission. And basically what these would do is, if there's no planes to actually try to engage them, if they keep doing their missions, it would actually slightly lower the war support over time, kind of like convoy raiding does. And I think that'd be a really cool feature to actually do to somebody in Hearts of Iron 4, like in multiplayer, where you could just have 400 or 500 planes up, say for example, and you could start doing leaflet campaigns over northern France, and it doesn't have to just lower war support. It could increase resistance in occupied zones. I think that would be a really cool thing, but if they added something like that, I hope they would do what number 8 is and add abilities through decisions, or maybe sending more infantry to certain zones, or military police divisions that would increase your stability and war support. Basically, in Hearts of Iron 4 right now, there's only a couple ways to increase your stability or war support. For democratic nations to increase your war propaganda, you have to have more than 50% world tension, and you can only do this like once every certain amount of time. I think it's like once a year, even after that point. For your increasing stability, you've only got a couple options. If you're on a offensive war, I think you have one time you can increase your stability, and that's it until the war is over. So you can lose a ton of your stability, and there's no way to gain it back. I think what they should do is add a couple things. One, increase the ability for us to do more decisions while we're at war to increase the stability, but maybe lower the war support and vice versa. Or another option could be maybe like how you can do this mission right here. Instead of lowering resistance, it could be stuff like maybe increase local support, and depending on how much of your zone you have, covered or whatever, it would increase your stability over time. Because, I mean, let's be honest, you have a bunch of, well, let's be honest here, Germany was a pretty stable country in World War II because of all the, divisions that were still stationed around, the secret police there, I mean, anybody that kind of said anything non-pro, I mean, it kind of got you shot, if we're going to be honest. I mean, I think that should really be an issue, or not an issue, but an option to garrison zones to increase your local support. Or at least for fascist and communist nations, if not democracies, I would think. For number 9, this is going to be one of the biggest ones, please stop making it to where the supply comes from the capital and goes to different zones. Somebody mentioned this in a video I did recently when I was doing like a top 10 tips video for Hearts of Iron 4. What ended up happening is I mentioned in that video that your supply starts from the capital. And one thing you can do to enemies is encircle the capital. If you're in single player, if you're in multiplayer, you're going to get banned. But you could encircle capitals, and it totally cuts the supply off to every division under their command. I think somebody in the comment section, I forgot their name, they had a really good point. Basically, it should not come from the capitals, but it should come from a split kind of thing of your capital, military factory, and civilian factories. Like, for example, fuel to units would come from civilian factories, weapons and equipment would come from, military factories to units, and then your manpower itself would come from the capital. I think that would be a such more cooler decision and option in Hearts of Iron 4 than just knowing that if anything happens to your capital, like it gets encircled and they don't want to take it in multiplayer, if you don't have that rule set up, your entire army is going to get just ruined because there's no supply coming to it. I think that's one of the big things that should be changed. Now, for number 10, and this is where it's going to get a little bit clickbaity. Sorry about that. I want to know what you guys want for number 10. And that's not supposed to be a joke. I'm actually serious. For number 10, go down in the comments and say what you want added to Hearts of Iron 4. Because some of those things, I assume what you guys are going to say, are going to be ending up being things that I'm going to want in Hearts of Iron 4. Like the whole supply thing that was in one of the recent videos that somebody mentioned. An idea maybe of how it could work instead of coming from your capital. I want that now. So down there, let number 10 end up being what one of you guys recommends. So guys, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please don't forget to subscribe, as my channel is very tiny compared to other Hearts of Iron Paradox YouTubers, and please make me bigger than them so I can one day challenge the almighty Drew Durnell in a country watching contest and see who blinks first. I don't know. Anyway guys, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Stay awesome.